This is a one-speaker meeting. Please welcome our speaker tonight, Dave. How'd you do it? I'm an alcoholic named Dave.
Hi, Dave!
And it's I've never spoken in front of a group where so many people think they know me. I've been the short speaker here, but I've never had an opportunity to be the long speaker. I go to jail, though. I've gone to jail for the past 5 years to the Twin Towers on the 6th floor, and it's been good practice because I have a captive audience. They're on meds. They're not going anywhere, and they laugh at inappropriate times. And I've been able to tailor-make, my story, come up with some good fifth-step stuff to tell them. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. Just to qualify, I have a sponsor, Johnny A. He's got a sponsor, Mike F. And, I sponsor a guy. And he's sober today. A couple guys or at least one guy I sponsored isn't around anymore. And I know some other guys I sponsored are around. I just don't see them. They move on, for whatever reason. I don't take it too personally. When I moved to town, I had like 5 years, and I wasn't sponsoring anybody. And I just thought, man, nobody wants what I've got, But that was me, I'd rather be at home right now. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here at this meeting. I want to be talking to you. I love that. It's good for me, but I'd rather be at home watching TV. I got 6 turtles that I can just go out on my patio and feed bugs to, and I love watching them eat bugs. I pick them up and they bite me. Because I'm still obsessive compulsive. I had 10 turtles. And 8 months ago, I had no turtles. We hired this guy at this place I work at in Hollywood, and he brought in an aquarium and some turtles, and I thought, damn. And a friend of mine found some on Craigslist, and I haven't bought any turtles. I get them all free off of Craigslist. I just go up, pick them up, and people give me the aquarium. They give me all that stuff, and I just think that's great. When I moved to town 5 years ago, I was working down. I still work here, down where the satellite dishes are, and I got off work, and I live right down the street. I'm walking down the alley, and there's a little 10-gallon aquarium sitting in a dumpster. I'm a dumpster diver, and I've never had fish. And I grabbed it, and it had everything in it: the rocks, the plants, the heater, the filter. And I took it home, and it cleaned it up, and it held water. And I thought, well, check this out, and I went to an aquarium store, told him I've never had fish. I got a brand new aquarium. He sold me some painted tetras, which are just cheap little fish, and they lived. And and part of what I see as my alcoholic behavior, I still am obsessive compulsive. I still do things. In a short period of time, maybe 6 months, people had given me aquariums. I'd purchased aquariums. I had 11 aquariums in my little dining area. And I looked at it as like a little meditation area. The filter's going, the pump's going. It's like a water stream. And the reason I had so many is I had some big ones. And I got some mollies and some cichlids. And this was all an education for me in sobriety. They make little guys. They spawn, and you got little guys swimming around. So I had to separate them because they eat them. And it was just a kick for me to sit and watch these little guys grow into big things, And that's how I stay sober. I do things like that. A guy named Joe P. I met here at the Marina Center, and I joke with Joe. I say he really screwed up my life. I'd been filling in for the guy that recorded this meeting prior to me. This guy named Sean, and he asked me if I wanted to go record a Friday night meeting, and I didn't. I was walking down the street down Overland to the studio group on Friday nights. I like that. It's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes away. Nice walk. And I don't want to drive on a Friday night. And I don't want to go to a meeting where I don't know anybody. And I don't want to record a meeting. I don't want to have a job. And I went out there with Joe and showed up. And there were like 16 gorgeous women at this meeting. I said, yeah, I could do this. And And that's what changed my life, was doing something I didn't want to do, but seeing a reason there. And in 6 months, the girls are all gone because they have their own little group. They follow the secretary around, and it's just me recording these meetings. And I have all these tapes, and for 6 years now, I've had tapes in my closet, just a pile of them. I have over 1,000 tapes. Another guy just gave me over 1,000 tape, a guy named JS, who's kind of an AA historian, archivist guy, and he sees the work that I do, and just gave me his full collection, over 1,000 AA tapes, and said he just wants a digital copy. I told him I'd burn him, a DVD data disc that he can get on his computer, and that's where my life is. That's I say it's a good life. It's not a great life, but it's a good life. It keeps me sober, and I just love giving CDs away and doing this. And that's how most of you know me here, other than being secretary for this past year. And this is the tradition, the secretary speaks. And the reason the people that spoke here came here because they were people I liked to hear talk. I liked their stories. I'd been around in this area for 6 years, and I wanted to hear them. Some of them were people I had never heard speak. They were just people I knew, and I wanted to hear about their lives. I wanted to hear their story. And I liken what we do here to the Native Americans. They pass their history on. It's an oral history. The elders, as a friend says in a meeting, passes their history on and to the younger people. And we kind of do that here. It's an oral history we give here of our lives. And we all laugh about the mishaps and the drunk drivings and the beatings and going to jail or whatever, but that's what we do here, one alcoholic sharing with another, and that's how the recovery process works. I start out just by talking about how I started drinking. I was like 15 years old. It was, 1968, 69, somewhere in there. I grew up in Orange County, was in Santa Ana, and 4 things happened that year. Lost my virginity, started driving a car, got drunk on alcohol, and started smoking pot. All those things happened. It was a hell of a year for me, and it was great. I mean, I had fun. I was a party guy. I loved it, and I didn't know anything about alcoholism. I didn't know anything about Alcoholics Anonymous, but I remember an Uncle Dutch came out from Ohio, and he was just an old guy. He was just an old retired guy, and he was playing golf and going to AA meetings. That's all I remember about Dutch's visit. He was going to Palm Springs to play golf, and he was going to AA meetings, and he was a happy man. He was old and he was happy, and I remember that. I remember my mom telling me, and I can remember this like it was yesterday. My mom told me, David, you could be an alcoholic. She'd read in the paper somewhere that alcoholism was hereditary, and my grandfather, her dad, was an alcoholic and never made it in AA. He worked for Michigan Steel. He drove a locomotive, and they sent him to AA meetings to keep his job. And he was just a crotchety old man. He was always throwing firecrackers behind people, and he had a brakeman on the train, and he'd put a cup on the guy's belt and throw pebbles into his cup. But for me, it was a great. He was my grandfather. He was a great guy. He had like a penny bush out in his backyard. I've never talked about this, but I just remembered it. It was some plant or whatever, the bulb of a tulip or something. He'd just take it in his hand, cut it open, and slip a penny in there. Oh, look, a penny tree. I got even with the old guy. When I was about 18, I drove a little Volkswagen I had out to Michigan from Santa Ana and threw a firecracker behind him. I mean, I don't, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I just tell stories, instances I remember. I remember twice in my life I had people yell at me about drinking and drugging. The first time, me and a friend would drive to Lomita every Friday night, and I'd gotten into the American Indian culture, and we were singing songs, and I looked forward to this because every night on the way home, he would stop and buy a six-pack. Keith was 21, and I was, 19 or something, and I would ask him, hey, are we going to stop and get a six-pack? I mean, if it took too long, on the drive home, like I'd be waiting, anticipating the six-pack. Where the hell's the six-pack? And he yelled at me one night, is that all you think about? Well, yeah, it was, and it hurt my feelings. And he eventually stopped and bought the six-pack, and I was happy. And another time I got yelled at was a roommate of a college roommate of mine, and we were sitting in his house doing bong hits and drinking Miller Lite, and his roommate came home and saw me there, and I'd been doing this with him for a while, and he yelled at me, "Is that all you do?" And it hurt my feelings. Yeah, that's all I was doing. And you know, I was just living my life. I was having fun. I didn't think about alcoholism. I didn't think about drug addiction. I just thought about having fun, and I was partying, although the party consisted of usually just me in my car driving. I'm a drunk driver. I like to drink and drive. I've been to jail about 7 or 8 times. I wasn't really keeping track. I didn't run a scorecard, but I thought about it one day and counted them in my head. And I've been to jail. My first jail was I think it was the San Diego City jail when I was in college. I wasn't really drinking and driving. I had a Honda 750 motorcycle, and I went the wrong way down a one-way alley checking out frat parties. And then there was a time right close to that I went to Paso Robles City Jail. This friend of mine, Pete, stopped by, and I had a Honda Goldwing, and we're doing 70 miles an hour down a 15-mile-an-hour street after drinking Brave Bulls. And I'd never had Brave Bulls, thought it was pretty good, very tasty drink, but I couldn't pick my head up off the bar, and Pete was drinking my drinks. They pulled us over. He couldn't find his nose. They gave me the motorcycle, and when I tend to drink, I become an asshole. So I go back to the police station and start yelling at the desk sergeant, when's my friend going to get out? And these 2 CHP guys smelled me when I was walking in. They were walking out, and they said, "Whatever you do, don't go out and get on that bike." And with the span of however long I was in that office, I forgot I'd passed those guys, and they'd said that, and I went out and got on the bike and didn't even go a block. And just was a jerk. I was a total jerk. Got my own cell by myself, and just, you know, I'm a jerk. I'm just a total jerk, saying anything I can to hurt your feelings. And you know, back in those days, it was $250 in the night in jail. It was no big deal. I probably had to go see that movie Red Asphalt once. I might have had to go to one AA meeting, maybe. I remember not wanting to park near the place so nobody would see my car, like anybody would be there that I knew. Stood in the back of the room, got my thing signed, and left. I think that happened once. I've been to the Sacramento City Jail, the Fresno City Jail, Santa Barbara County Jail, the little substation Santa Barbara County Jail thing, and then the big jail. They wanted to keep me there 30 days because I'd already had a DUI, and it'd been like not even a year, and I got a second, and they wanted to keep me. God, I don't know how many that is. I've been running my fingers. Just small town jails. Santa Barbara County was the biggest. I never drank here in Los Angeles. I used here. When I didn't have a license, I'd take the Greyhound bus to go see my folks and stop here to change over and walk down 7th and Alvarado looking to score, or just getting high looking at the homeless people and the junkies. And that's what I did for entertainment. I kind of managed my life through my drinking. The first time I got drunk was I was 15. It was at a family party in the backyard of our house, and everybody's laughing. Hey, Dave's drunk, and they got a big kick out of it. And I just remember being drunk and having to pee a lot. Went to college and drank a little bit until I moved away. I went to San Diego State, which is a well-known party school, and that's why I went there. I mean, I studied television and film, and that was my major. But I went there because it was a party school. I could have gone to Fullerton, I would have lived at home, but I lived away, and I learned how to party. Made some lifetime friends, and learned how to party. Learned how to drink. Just had some insane behavior, and again went to jail down there in San Diego. The whole time I'm in that jail cell, I'm wondering where I'm going to put the cameras, because I'm a film student. I'm creative. Where am I going to place these cameras while I'm in jail? You know, I hadn't thought about any of the repercussions, like what this is doing to my life. You know, that I never totaled that up. I never thought that way. Fast forward, I kind of snuck through school, left San Diego State on academic probation, went to Cal State Fullerton, kind of maneuvered my way through, and didn't know how to find work in Hollywood. We're egomaniacs with an inferiority complex, and I drove around town in 1979 and dropped off my resume with Norman Lear's people and a lot of TV stations. Just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to go to a small town and start and work my way up. That's just in my head. That's how I saw myself doing it. And got my first job in Eureka, California, Humboldt County. And for a pot smoker, I thought I died and gone to heaven. There was a party like once a month. Somebody would get a job at another market, and we'd have another party. And it was just a great place to be. Right across the street was a bar, and this old lady, Bee, it was Bee's, and Bee owned the bar, and Bee was there, and Bee knew all of us and let us go behind the bar to pour our own beers out of the tap. And then, through attrition, I learned how to direct and technical direct newscasts, and everybody partied there. So after the 11 o'clock news, I'd go into the Carson show, and I was a master control operator, technical director. I ran the TV station. It's kind of like a glorified projectionist. You run tapes, you run films, you run commercials, you keep a log. And so when we got into Carson, everybody that was on the news set would come off, and we'd go into the control room, and we'd just start partying. Somebody'd bring a six-pack or a case of beer, and we'd start rolling joints because it was Humboldt County. And, I'd be missing breaks. There'd be black on the air. But it was like 11:30 at night. It was like 11:30 at night, and who's watching TV, in Humboldt County? Everybody's probably stoned anyways. Nobody ever complained. And I learned what I call creative discrepancy writing, because if you made a mistake, you had to write up a discrepancy report. And my creative discrepancy writing was, a moment of black rather than 2 minutes. I remember a guy showed up one time, it had to be like 7:30. We were in Hee-Haw, and I went out and did a line of coke and smoked some weed with the guy, and a whole break rolled by. And that's just dark. That's just black on your TV screen. And who's watching the clock? Nobody's counting. And I just lied about it. I mean, here I am running a federally operated licensed facility, and I'm drinking and I'm using, and it's just a mess. And I kind of managed my life. I mean, I thought I died and gone to heaven, but I managed my life through my career. And I learned to party, and I drank my lunch in bars. In fact, one of my first heroes I met, this guy Dick Peabody. He was on the syndicated show Combat. He was a tall guy, carried a BAR and a bazooka, and just a big actor, big guy. Terrible actor though. But Dick drank his lunch, and I met him down at the Ritz. And I drank, and it was just a moment for me. I got to drink my lunch with Dick. And he had a public service show at the station also, so we knew each other there. But that was just, to me, those were great moments, drinking with somebody. I smoked a lot of weed. Alcohol kicked my ass, so I'd prefer weed, but I'd always drink. I'd save things like crank or coke or crack or mushrooms. Those were like special occasion drugs. Like if I met the editor, I became a production editor in 1990. If I met the editor from the San Luis Obispo TV station. I was working in Santa Maria, and I met this editor from San Luis Obispo, and we partied like for all night because he had some crank, and we just stayed up. To me, that was a special occasion. I don't even remember his name at this point, but it was fun. Well, I managed my life through my career. I just kind of plotted out what cities I wanted to work in the top 10 markets. And I got the broadcasting yearbook, and we didn't have the internet in those days, and I just figured out what cities I would want to work in, and I started sending out resumes. And I'd be stoned and drunk the whole time I'd be doing all this, and this is how I worked. And I remember signing on with when Charles Kuralt's Sunday morning news came on. I'd always have a pipe there, just getting stoned. I love that on Sunday morning, me and Charles Kuralt. But I went from Eureka to Fresno, of all places, and I would have never picked Fresno, but Fresno was a great career move. It was a brand new TV station, brand new equipment, more money. Money was important, and but I had to be more secretive about my drinking and using. Although one time when I went to this Fresno City jail one night for being a jerk in a bar, a cop came in and told me to, if I took another drink out of that beer, he was going to arrest me. And I had a cowboy hat on. I flipped it back and tipped my beer. You know, who do you think you're talking to? Well, I'm talking to the guy with the handcuffs, and off I went. And I was honest about it to the people at work. An engineer that I worked with happened to know how to run the TV station, so when I didn't show up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you know, he knew what to do. And when I showed up at 11 o'clock after they released me, because they only keep you for 4 hours, you know, I just told him, well, I went to jail, you know. I went out drinking last night. And everybody seemed to understand. I mean, it's a kind of a creative business. Nobody cares to the point to where, you know, they're going to let you go. If you're honest with them, it's cool. And I went from Fresno to Sacramento. I lived in Stockton, and my life kind of took a turn. I felt like, you know, I'd reached a limited amount of success. You know, it was a fairly good-sized television market, and I was making decent money, and I decided it was time to get married. So I went to a dating service, and this was kind of a nightmare. This lady had these little Polaroid pictures, you know. She only had like 30 women, and I went out and had coffee with all these ladies, Irish coffee. You know, I had to have some alcohol, and hooked up with this lady. And, God, what a nightmare. You know, I had no clue how to have a relationship. I had no clue, no idea. You know, if I were in jail, I'd go into more detail, but it was just, I looked at love as a physical thing, you know, and for me it was a drug. If she, I mean, she would throw things at me. I was dodging coffee cups, ashtrays, and glasses going out the front door because I'd said something stupid or ignored her or whatever. I mean, that's, you know, I really can't say I was wrong or a bad person or a bad husband, but I functioned within that relationship, and that's how I saw it, as a loving relationship, and I figured everybody went through that, and it was just insanity, total insanity. If I could get her calmed down and to say she loved me, that was like a drug. You know, that just had an overwhelming feeling. I love you, David. And it was, you know, today, even today, if I hear that, I just melt. I've gotten better at it. I don't let it affect me, but it's, those feelings are still there. And my story's a lot about feelings. I had a moment. I was having anxiety attacks. I call it an emotional crisis. I don't think I had a nervous breakdown or anything. I've never suffered from depression. I don't understand depression. I don't understand people that have depression because I usually wake up in a good mood virtually every day of my life. But I would leave this lady's house after she threw something at me having an anxiety attack because it didn't really mesh in my head and my heart, and to the point of almost vomiting. I would be so sick, and I didn't know it at the time. That's what was going on, but I've learned that was an anxiety attack, and I because I was working graveyard shift at this TV station, I ran a lot of public service announcements for alcoholism, and the Schick Center was big then. That alcoholism thing was back in my head, and I kind of had a moment of clarity one night, parked under a street light. That was my white light experience. You know, this is God talking to me. David, you're an alcoholic. And I just admitted that to myself. That was the night that I admitted that. It was like May 1st, I think, or April 29th. And that weekend, the next day I went home, started calling recovery centers to find out if I could go in for a couple days, have this problem taken care of. I had a great job, I had great insurance, and went down and talked to these people in Lodi. It was New Beginnings in Lodi, California, and checked into a 28-day program. And, you know, my life was unmanageable. I mean, I had a great apartment. I thought I had it going on, and when we got, you know, they introduced us to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I even thought about AA when I was calling recovery places, but I thought it would take too long. And I needed something to fix me right away because I had to go back to work. Well, I didn't count on the 28-day stay, but I did that. And, you know, going to AA meetings, I heard the stories, I identified. Went to some NA meetings, and nobody was smoking pot there. In fact, in those days, they were saying if you just smoked pot, maybe you weren't an addict. And I didn't really, you know, I didn't know anybody that was slamming heroin, so I didn't identify with those people. But I loved the AA meetings, and I laughed. Did that for a period of time, got out of the recovery place, going to a meeting with a young lady, and this lady that I was engaged to be married to pulled up next to me at a light. Well, I'm sitting there with this girl, and I'm going to these meetings thinking that, I'm turning my life and will over to God, and anything that happens is God's will. So this lady pulling up next to me at this light, this is God's will. She sees me, she waves. I wave. You know what? I figure if she calls me, that's got to be God's will. If we go out and we hook back up, that's got to be God's will. And sure enough, she called, we went out, and bam, it's on again. And as far as I was concerned, that was God's will. But it was total insanity. I had no program. I really wasn't. The sponsor I had at the time told me, Dave. I told him all about this. He says, Dave, I'm worried about your sobriety. And then we went to a couples counseling from a guy that was in recovery. He says, Dave, I'm worried about your recovery. And she went to a couple AA meetings with me and told me how impressed she was with the honesty she heard. And essentially, I quit going to meetings and turned my life and will over to her. And because I wanted to be normal. I didn't want to be an alcoholic. And she told me that, David, you're not an alcoholic. You're not a drug addict. You just partied a little bit too much once in a while. And, I quit going, made her my higher power, and lived what I thought was a normal life. I just wanted to go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed, get up and do it all over again, be happy, joyous, and free. But it was like total insanity. I had no program for living. And every 2 weeks, there'd be a crisis. And I'd be getting kicked out of the house. I'd be sleeping on the couch. And I saw this as love. This was a loving relationship. And again, my thinking was if I could just do whatever she wanted me to do to get her to say she loved me, things would be cool. And it's really a dysfunctional way of living. I know that today. Married the lady, was married 3.5 years. You can only live so long in pain before you have to anesthetize yourself. And I went out on the streets of Stockton looking for something to make me feel good. And crack cocaine was big. I'd just come out. Crank had been out for a while. And that was the first thing I tried. A lot of insanity, going to jail again. Drinking and driving, and I remember driving down the road when I was dry. I wasn't really sober, but I was dry, and I was thinking, you know what, I'll never get a DUI again. And here I'm getting DUIs and drinking and driving. And I knew that I had to go to AA. And after a DUI, I moved to Santa Maria, got a job at a TV station in Santa Maria after Stockton. And here was God, and I'm not a big God guy, but this is my God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Got me a job 5 hours away, and I moved because I was just out of that insanity. I'd probably be dead or in prison now if I'd have stayed in that town. But, when I moved to that town, Cheers was a big show then, and the theme song to Cheers was, go to a place where everyone knows my name. And I went to bars, and everybody got to know my name. I was dancing, hanging out with strippers, and just loving it. It was a small town. People know you. Bars like Shaw's and Spanky's and Elmer's out in Old Orchid, and started collecting DUIs and drunken publics again. And had to go to AA. And alcoholics were defiant people. And I told myself, you know what, I'm going to get sober, but I'm going to do it on my own, not because they're forcing me. And that was my thinking. I had to go to acupuncture, and I'd have a beer waiting for me out in the car just to prove that it wouldn't work. Another moment of insanity, I got another DUI, so I quit drinking because they put me on Antabuse, and I used to have to go to a place and chew an Antabuse tablet 3 times a week in front of somebody, so I just smoked a lot of pot and would do those specialty drugs, if something happened. But I would generally be stoned every day, and it got to a point to where I was telling myself, and there was a friend of mine who worked at a radio station up there, and Chris and I would look across at each other and go, man, we got to stop doing this. I mean, I can't do this. I mean, I wouldn't even think about it. I'd wake up in the morning and I'd start getting stoned, watching the morning shows, and then go to work. And here I was a production editor. I was making commercials and local videos and stuff. I was editing. And I saw that as being more creative. You know, I have a creative position now, and this enables me to be more creative. I would go in at midnight and work all night and just play around, lay down a track of music and edit video to this, and be stoned. It's just how I thought. Clancy says we suffer from a disease of perception, and that's how I perceived myself. Again, hooked up with another lady. We went out like 5 times, and she saw what I was doing, and she's a great friend of mine today, but had another emotional crisis. My friend Mary said, David, we can't have an intimate relationship because of what you're doing. And she didn't say what I was doing. I knew what she was talking about. And I wasn't drinking. I was just smoking pot. But they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So I hung in there with her. And she was an actress. She was doing local theater, and I would videotape this play she was in. She was doing the play Nonsense, and I edited this piece for her. And I thought, this woman's got to love me when this piece is done. She's got to love me. And nothing. I mean, it was like the last night of the play. I thought she should have made a date with me, and she made it with somebody else. And I went to the play and created some drama and blah, 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 blah. I'm driving from Pismo Beach to Los Osos that night, and again, I'm not a big God guy, but I'm in my little Volkswagen van, smoking pot, not getting high, hadn't had a drink in a couple years, and I'm talking to God, and I'm crying. Why can't I have a healthy relationship? This is what I'm crying about. Because I knew what I wanted, and I knew what my problem was. And I got out there and told my little tale of woe to my friends out there, and they says, David, she's just a bitch. And it's all her. And a couple days went by. You know, I'd called her the next day, and she said I needed some professional help. She wasn't equipped to help me. And I said I just needed to quit smoking pot. So for the next couple days, I called therapists, and nobody will see you right away. You know, they'll see you in a couple days, or they'll see you next Friday, or they'll see you next Thursday. And I needed relief now. And sitting in my edit suite, it dawned on me. All I need to do is go to a meeting. And I got on the phone, and I was too ashamed to go to AA. Hadn't had a drink in a few years, but I'd been smoking a lot of pot, so I called Narcotics Anonymous. And I went to their little Cook Street Club on I think it was a Tuesday night, June 20th of '94, and raised my hand as a newcomer. And felt like I'd walked home. It was nothing like this room. It was a small room, but they were people I identified with, and I just had that sense of ease and comfort that you get when you're done. I was just done. And I got into service right away. I started going to meetings every day, a couple times a day in that little town, and started doing panels. I secretaried 2 meetings my first year because I wanted this thing. I didn't want to go back to the life I had. I didn't want to go back to that loneliness. My sponsor then at that time told me we alcoholics suffer from 3 types of fear. The fear of not being loved, the fear of not being accepted, and the fear of being alone. And when I go to a meeting, I'm not alone, I'm loved, and I'm accepted. And that takes care of that fear. I don't live in that fear, the 1,000 forms of fear that we alcoholics suffer from. I've just learned that being of service is a way of life for me. It's a way for me to feel a part of. I left Santa Maria and went to Bakersfield and went to Santa Barbara. I mean, I've lived all over California. I've learned if I don't know people, by choice, I would be one of the guys standing in the back of the room talking to another guy and never being a part of the meeting. When I moved to Santa Barbara, I learned that becoming a greeter, I'm forced to stick my hand out, and I have to meet you. And I become a better person for that. When I picked up this recording commitment, I began to meet the speakers. And that's how I know those people. Those people have become my friends because I'm forced to stick my hand out, shake your hand, and talk to you, ask you for your phone number. Was prompted to become secretary on a Wednesday night, and that also is a life-changing experience. I get to know you, and more importantly, you get to know me. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Dave. I would like to thank again Gloria for Chapter 5 and Rudy for the 12 traditions. Are there any secretary announcements?
Robert, I'm your alcoholic secretary. What's up, Robert?
Robert. Hi.
Yeah, Let's thank Dave for speaking tonight. Let's thank Shane for leading a great meeting. And let's welcome the newcomers and out-of-towners. That's good. And congratulate the people who took chips and cakes. Would the folks who have commitments stand up, say hi, and then if you have anything to report, do that quickly as well? Thank you.
I'm Jim, an alcoholic.
Hey, Jim.
And very grateful to have this H&I commitment. I love H&I. It's a fantastic program. Heard a little bit tonight about those jails and institutions we know and love. We help to bring panels and literature into those places. Great program. I highly suggest people get involved. And if you want more information, see me after the meeting. Please give generously. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Vince. Brian is the court car saver. Pardon me? Yeah. Signer. Is that okay? Signer. Yeah. Okay. So somebody needs to do that tonight because I have to go. I was going to do it, but I'm just doing that. So maybe you can.
All right. Come see us up at the podium after.
Line up on that side over there.
I'm Dave, your alcoholic chip person.
My name's Mike. I'm alcoholic.
I'm Mike.
I do the literature at the back of the meeting. You'll find I have books and free pamphlets. Free pamphlets are really good for if you have a drunk neighbor and they end up on your lawn passed out. 24 questions, slip it in the top, you know,
Very alcoholic, ready to speak a word.
I'm Paris, I'm an alcoholic. I am your cleanup guy. I need a couple volunteers to help me clean up after the meeting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. I'm going to smoke and then we'll meet in the back. Thanks, guys.
Mary, alcoholic reader. To be an alcoholic and bring a birthday cake. Patty, alcoholic, your treasurer. Hi,
Patty.
We collected $127.40. Expenses $99.28.42. Thanks for that.
Very nice. And that's AK in the back. He's just starting his coffee commitment.
Alcoholic. I'm having coffee starting tonight for those of you who are upset with me for being late. It's too fucking bad.
We're gonna get along great.
Again, my emergency is clearly not anybody in this room's problem. I will do better.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's you right there. This has been a regular Wednesday night speaker meeting. Thank you for coming. Keep coming back. Now, after a moment of silent meditation for the alcoholic who still suffers, would Bill, would you want to lead us in the Lord's Prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.
It does work. Right on, Jay. All right, let's see.
Oh, but they help.
A court card?
Matt, tomorrow.
What is today, the 11th or 12th? 11th, I think, hold on. Yeah. Is today the 11th?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Is there a lost and found?
Maybe somebody left the card key for gate access to a building. Left it on the seat. Is there anywhere they might put it? Should I ask Dave?
You can ask him, I don't know.
You doing the court thing?
Yeah, I am. I got a pen.
Oh, cool, man. Thanks for the seat.
Thanks, bud. Yeah.
See you in the pink.
Here you go.
Hey there.
Hey there, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Great. This is your second meeting today, huh?
Uh-huh.
All right. Oh, you're on the 26th. Cool. Right on. Six.
Man, that's right.
They take him to Oakland, don't they? I know he's in Oakland. I saw it on the
Fantastic investment.
What's the area code?
Is that yours? One of these yours? Oh. Hi.
Congratulations.
Been a while since you've been to a meeting, huh? Didn't think anybody noticed, huh? Yep, where's your court card?
Oh, God, I don't got it. Not today. Not today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If it happens, I'll be all right. Not today.
That's right. I hear you. I hear you.
Thank you.
That's
Good to see you.
Oh, yeah. That's like forever good, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Nice and everything. I can't let you in.
Supposed to be clean.
Yeah, I understand that. Good job. Yeah. No, I mean, kind of, if there's any Hi. You like it up here, don't you?
No idea. I'm looking for something that was lost.
Was there a very nice sweeping technique. I need a commitment. Doing something fun though.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know that there are any right now because our name taking commitment. Why do we keep these after they've already happened? So you know the history of the center?
I don't know.
I'm just making up reasons right now.
That sounds like a good idea to me, so I guess that the same person doesn't leave.
Here's a couple of these.
You don't have a name tag?
Oh, we just took the commitment. If you guys want, you could share this commitment too, but usually it's one person per.
Yeah, let might do it.
Yeah. Now here's a month's worth of sheets, and I'll make up more as we need them. Yeah.
Just write pretty. And in purple pen.
I used to do 2 cards for a living.
I write like a typewriter.
That would be the toughest one for me because I swear to God I can't hear people say their names and everyone else repeats it and I go, I didn't
Someone
hear the
says
first name.
Mark and I say Tom.
Thank you.
Like, and I'll be sitting next to them now.
Laser beam.
No, like I sit next to them and I still think their name is something completely else.
How's it going? 25 years old.
Have you been back to Discovery lately?
We need someone to do GSR. You don't want to do that, no?
No, I don't.
Oh, nobody wants to do the tough.
That is a tough
Clean out treasure and then
What needs more than one person?
maybe food with Ed.